For the remote raiding community, they just received a huge win from Niantic. They announced that they're going to be rolling in some changes to remote raids as well as Dynamax content, and I do think a lot of the stuff is a long time coming. Hey, how's it going everyone? Count Jinsula here with a brand new Pokemon GO video. I hope your day is going really well, and let's get right into it. So this is a very exciting video because there has been a lot of players who have been very unhappy with Pokemon GO for the past couple of years, and the reason for that is because of the hard nerfs to remote raids that Niantic implemented. Of course, when remote raids were first introduced, it was in response to the pandemic and all of the quarantines that were happening all around the world. Since players could not go out and play, they had a new item that was introduced which allowed you to do raids remotely. Of course, you still needed a player to go to a raid to host it, and then they could send out remote raid invites, but this was something that definitely changed the game for the better. Even after the quarantines ended, a lot of players still enjoyed remote raids because of the quality of life improvements, as well as the lack of a need for having a major community in your area. And I think because of that, it fixed a lot of issues with the game more than it created problems for, and that is the argument that I'm going to stand on. But Niantic did a hard nerf on remote raids. Their reason for that is because they wanted to promote more outdoor-based gameplay, which I do not necessarily disagree with. They could have done that a lot better. And then of course, it's because to them, they felt like it was not something that was sustainable. Anytime they released a raid, it was just too easy for players to get 100% IVs and shinies, and they wanted to limit a lot of that stuff just a little bit. And then on top of that, of course, you saw a lot of players just like a hot flash in the pan. They just spend just a crazy amount of money within a couple of months, and then they take long breaks because of the sheer amount of money that they spent. I can understand why Niantic would want to remote raid passes, but I felt like they swung the pendulum a little too far. They doubled the price of remote raid passes, and I felt like that alone was just a huge nerf. And then they added a hard limit to 5 remote raids that you could do every single day. And I think that was something that bothered a lot of players. Of course, if you are a whale, you're going to spend the money regardless of what the price is. And I think the limit is what drove a lot of players to just really be fed up with Niantic and their decision making. So after a couple of years, after a lot of players have been giving a lot of feedback, it looks like Niantic rolled back some of those changes. First and foremost, remote raids are now going to be limited to 10 instead of 5. I think that alone is such a huge change. But they also are going to allow certain content which was in person only to now be something you could do remotely. And I think all of this is really good. So yeah, let's talk about the details of what they announced, and then yeah, I'll talk about why this is a really good thing for Pokemon GO. Let's start off by talking about the changes to Shadow Raids. So starting with the Crown Clash Taken Over event on May 13, you're going to be able to remotely do Shadow Raids with your friends. And this change will remain in effect after the conclusion of the event. So originally we all thought this was going to be specific to the Crown Clash event, but it looks like it's going to be a permanent change. And then Shadow Raids are also going to count towards the daily limit, so that is something you should keep in mind. But speaking of the daily limit, they're actually going to be increasing it from 5 to 10 after this event starts. And yes, this is also going to be a permanent change. And they did make the note that they may increase the limit for special events, which we could expect them to do for events like Pokemon Go Fest. But next, let's talk about the changes to Max Battles. So starting on May 19 for Gigantamax Machamp Max Battle Day, we will now be able to join Max Battles remotely using remote raid passes as well as the required Max Particles. And the ability to join Max Battles remotely will remain in effect after the conclusion of the event. So this is not going to be event specific. After this event, you will be able to join Max Battles remotely. I think this is all really cool, and it's something that we've definitely been asking for. And trainers who participate in Max Battles in person will actually earn more Premier Balls and experience than before. So this is how they're going to balance it out. And the limit of Max Particles is going to be increased from 1,000 to 1,500. And this is another thing that a lot of players have been asking for, and I'm really glad Niantic is finally listening to the community in this regard. So yeah, I have to say this is a pretty big change for all of those people who have been complaining about the 5 remote raid pass limit. Now we're going to be able to do 10. It's not substantially higher, but at the very least they are increasing the limit, which, you know what, that is a good thing. It's a step in the right direction. The one thing that I wish they would do is lower the cost of remote raid passes. I still feel like they are too expensive and they're just not something that Niantic should hold on to. I really do think this price should go down. I would say the correct price, probably the price that I would most agree with, is going to be somewhere in the middle. Rather than them being 100 Pokecoins each, I would put it somewhere actually around 125. I think that's totally fair. I do agree with Niantic that remote raid passes are really powerful, that they do give you a little bit too much freedom, but I think having them double the price of what they were before was just way too much. I think they need to cut it and be somewhere in the middle. Like, if they were to make remote raid passes 125 Pokecoins, I think that would be a lot better, and it would definitely serve a lot of these new changes. And then on top of that, being able to remote raid into shadow raids as well as with Dynamax content like Gigantamax battles, that is a huge plus. That's something that a lot of players have been asking for, especially when it comes to those Gigantamax battles, because typically they require just an insane amount of people to actually complete. And now that you could bring in some of your buddies from all around the world, it's going to make a lot of that content a lot more accessible. And I think that's a really good thing. So yeah, overall, I think these changes are really good. They're definitely a step in the right direction, but I still think there's a lot more than Niantic could do. And hopefully they will keep looking at it, and maybe they'll make more positive changes in the future. But in any case, that's going to be it for this video. Let me know your thoughts regarding all of these changes down below. Are you excited at the fact that you're going to be able to do 10 remote raids every single day? Or are you just not affected by any of this? Definitely share your thoughts in the comments, and let's have a great discussion. Thank you so much for making it all the way to the end of this video. If you ended up enjoying it, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe if it's your first time here, and don't forget the notification bell so you can stay up to date on whenever I upload videos. And real quick, let me give a shout out to all of my patrons on Patreon. You make this channel content possible. If you want to support the Jinsula channel, the best way you could do that is going to be by joining my Patreon. And if you decide to become a paid Patreon member, I'm going to add you to my Pokemon Go friends list. So that means for stuff like remote raids, the friendship system, opening and sending gifts. If you want to play Pokemon Go with me on the daily, then make sure you go and check out my Patreon. And if you want to support my channel in a completely different way, you're always welcome to do so by following me on social media. My handle is @Jinsula. I'm on the platforms that you see on the bottom of your screen. Make sure you go up there and give me a follow. And that's going to be it for this video. I'm Jinsula. Be safe, have fun, love yourself today, and I'll catch you in the next one.